Hello world, this is Draken, and today I'll be going over my thoughts on the EX job system that we are going to be getting, I believe, in about 2 months' time when we get the Final Fantasy banner. And the reason I believe that is because two of the ultra rare units that we are going to be able to have for the EX are Yuna and Titus. And they both only come out in the Final Fantasy X banner, and that's expected sometime in March here. So that's when I think we're going to be seeing this change and a lot of other changes to the game. Now, these are currently the only units that are going to have the EX job, which, it's not that big of a list right now. And we've yet to see really how much of a difference it's going to make for a lot of the characters. Like, we don't know for sure how many other mythic rare characters they're going to add to this list. And we're not sure what kind of abilities or stat bonuses those characters will get. So we might even have a couple mythic rare characters that are going to have some really good abilities that might actually make them viable, like an ultra rare character is right now. For sure though, Titus and Yuna coming out on the next banner are powerhouses, to say the least. I've looked through all their abilities, their skills, everything they have, and it is just ridiculous. For my evasion team anyways, I'm pretty much thinking of building a new type of team with all the newer characters that are coming out. Almost every one of them has sure hit type abilities, or accuracy up to the point where my units can't really evade as much as they used to be able to. Yuna has several sure hit abilities, including her ultimate, but that's not the only reason she's ridiculous. Like, all of her abilities, her skills, everything are really, really strong. So when these guys all come out, I'm pretty much saving up all my Vizuri right now, and once they are released, I'll be, just pulling on them. In the next several banners, I also won't be pulling on anything, because of the simple fact that to get a unit fully awakened, and I think Orin might not need to be awakened, he might be able to just be leveled up normally, which would be nice, because I'm not looking forward to either Yuna or Titus's EX level, which requires 400 extra shards on top of all their normal shards. And since they are limited time units, that means I'm going to have to be focusing really hard on those two characters who I both want to get maxed out. Yuna, because she's a light element character, which I do not have many of, and her skill set is above and beyond what pretty much any other character currently has. Titus, because he's a water unit, and again, he is just scary with the amount of critical he has in his skills and his abilities. Like, he will actually make critical viable, because for the longest time critical has not been very usable in this game. But with these new changes to the EX system, they've also added a bunch of cards and abilities that increase critical for units to, I guess, really buff it, but they haven't buffed it for any of the other characters. It's just for specific characters that now have these abilities that are making critical more of a threat than it had been in the past. So I guess I can close this. It's nice to see that they are kind of putting some super rare and rare characters to the EX levels. I would have preferred, honestly, if they had just done, like, say, all the normal and rare quality heroes first for the EX system, then all the super rares, then all the mythic rares, and then did all the ultra rares. But as it is, they really like to focus on the ultra rare characters and the ultra rare content, and the other characters kind of get left behind. These are kind of just like afterthought characters. Even Mont, he will be more viable, and he'll be probably one of the strongest tanks for a little while because of this buff, but he'll be left behind right away as soon as they buff any other ultra rare tanks with this EX system. One of the things to watch out for though is how much each of those is going to cost you, because 400 unit shards, as you know, is not a small amount. That basically doubles the cost of what you need to invest into a unit. And I know I've spent like just months getting Kitone because I never had her on a banner, and it took months and months and months just to get her up to level 99 just for 200 shards. So unless they're, putting those shards in the shop constantly, like in the metal shops or somewhere where it's readily accessible, these ultra rare, like level 120 EX characters are going to take, free to play players and even the paid players a long time to build up. But I do believe with each released character, they will probably feature their shards in the shop, probably for a lot of Vizuri, maybe even for paid Vizuri, because I wouldn't put that past them. And that means, you're going to have to save up a ton. Because to get, say you need 400 shards, and they sell 40 shards at like 1,000 or 2,000 Vizuri, you need a hell of a lot. Like, you need pretty much 20,000 or more just to get a couple hundred shards. It's not going to be very pleasant. I'm not looking forward to it, and I'll be saving up as much as I can for it. But let's get into some of the cards that will be changing, because with the EX system, there's also going to be a system done to each one of these cards, which is going to be different than what we've seen before. So this is a regular card, and currently it's in the banner. I would recommend it if you have a Magic team and you're building that. I would recommend it because that human killer on it is crazy. It's been one of the hardest things for me not to pull on this card, because you can pay 10,000 Viz and get it guaranteed, and I've wanted to do that the entire time it's been out, but I keep telling myself not to because of several reasons. The reason being, I don't have either of these units, and I'm not planning to use either of them, and the 10% magic buff isn't that strong. The ability here itself is almost enough to sway me, because that is a huge amount of damage. It gives a little bit extra range to some units who don't have range. And this human killer is going to be really good on a Magic team. But this is a card we currently have in the global version. You've probably all seen it. Now this is the JP version one, and it has, as you notice, an element added onto it. So at some point, all the cards will most likely be getting this, I'm assuming, and it will have a specific ability for only units of that type. So this one's increased strike resistance 20%. That was another reason that kind of swayed me away from it. For one, I think I have one lightning unit, and it's Salier, and that is it for lightning units. I don't have any others that are even close to leveled up, and I don't have the resources to level up a whole party of lightning units. And strike, honestly, it's not that big of a problem. Slashing, that's a little bit more of a problem. Piercing is kind of becoming a problem with Kane, and who knows who else is going to be released with piercing. But striking, we currently don't have any like really bad striking units that just are ridiculous. We have several like slashing units like Super Stern and Dwayne and Kane, who all happen to also be dark units. So that's also a little unfortunate, because there are cards that are coming out that are going to be really strong for very specific units. And these are the cards, I believe I have it set up here. Yep. These are all the cards that are in the newer set or was part of old ones that get a nice little buff. But as you notice, this card right here is the Omega card, and it'll be coming out in, I'm not sure what time, but it will be a future release here. And the one thing it gives, which is 8% agility, that's really good. And then, oh hey, 35 extra slash, 13 hit point, and magic resistance 20. Altogether, that card right there is fucking ridiculous. Like, that is just stupid amounts of everything for a pure dark team, especially when there is a really strong unit set like Kane, Dwayne, and Super Stern, who are all already really, really strong. They don't need this kind of a buff added to them, but they will be getting it when the Omega card comes out, and I'm pretty sure this card is going to be pulled a huge amount. So watch out for this card when it comes out. You will see those three guys do a lot more damage. Now this is another card, and again, I don't know when a lot of these cards are coming out. They are just future releases that we will be getting. So if you do have a light team or an ice team or a dark team or whatever element team you might want to build, you might want to keep your eye peeled and keep a little bit of Viz saved up. I would recommend pretty much just not spending any more until the EX system comes out, because you don't know how much exactly you will need to spend to level your specific units up to that point. And if they do release, say, a limited time, they have all the shards you need for the next 2 weeks to upgrade one of your characters from level 99 to 120. If you miss out on that, it will take you probably 3 to 4 months to level them up in other ways. So this card is incredibly strong though for any light units. It increased slash resistance penetration by 18. That's just huge. It has this ability, which is, again, this is one of the reasons why I'm getting rid of my evasion comp team, is because there are so many new abilities on characters and just even on cards that are sure hit abilities that do a lot of damage. Like my Venera, my Ketone, they just can't survive anymore like they used to be able to. So this is a sure hit ability, which is sure to kill probably most squishy people you hit with it. Now, 50% attack increase. Now, the only other thing that gives you that much is Ifrit, and this card gives that and a bunch of other abilities. It increases your evasion, which is kind of becoming a thing of the past almost, except for on normal hits. And critical evasion, which that will be more useful once Titus and them do come out, because Titus is going to be a pure critical hit unit. In fact, this 10 will probably be like nothing to him, because he'll have like 70 or 80% chance to critical hit you. So you'll just drop it down a tiny amount, but it will still come back to probably hit you. But this card is definitely a must-have for any light units. And of course it features Rob Horm here, but I do not know what the card is called besides its Japanese name. Setsuna no Senku. So you can look up for the English version of that, see when it's coming out. Now, this is just Diablos. We all have it already. It's been out for a while. It increases dark attack by 35, increases dark attack by 10. It's really good for dark units. The new thing it will be getting is light resistance, which that's actually really nice, because I've seen a lot of cards that are like, it's a wind card that boosts wind abilities, and then at the bottom it's like boosts wind resistance, and it's like, well, if you're using a wind unit, you don't really need wind resistance on a wind unit. You need, you know, whatever it's weak to. So for instance, if you're dark, you want light resistance. You don't want, you know, dark resistance. So that is a nice addition to this card. So I would recommend, you know, adding that to a dark team if you do have one going. That, Omega, and there's a couple other dark cards already out there that have just a ridiculous amount. So again, this is just a water card, but it adds fire resistance, which is somewhat nice. But this extra water attack will be huge in the upcoming Final Fantasy X, because of the next two cards you're about to see. Which I believe these kind of cards are all stupid, but I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of them where they have like 4 or 5 of these stupid kind of abilities that are all like, well, that's pretty good. So this increases agility by 12%. And I'll be going through the agility page next to show you like what's the best amount of agility you can get, what's the lowest. This is pretty good. It's almost at the best. 15% currently is the highest amount, so that's really good for a single unit. And then missile resistance is good, because there are a lot of missile units out there. Dexterity, also good. Accuracy as well. It's nice to hit people. I'm going to think there's going to be a lot less dodgy units going forward, just because they're going to become less viable with the amount of sure hit and accuracy buffs that the game is giving, while they aren't quite giving nearly as much dodge buffs. Now, this next card is the ultra rare card that is coming out in the Final Fantasy X event. So another reason I want to save for this event is because I want this ultra rare card, and it's limited time, and I need to get it maxed out along with both of the characters, so I basically can't spend any of my Visuri coming forward. Like, I hesitate to spend even 50 on something right now. So it increases attack by 30%, that's good for a single unit. Increases slash attack by 35, okay, that's, you know, that's pretty good combined together. Critical hit rate an extra 13, that is ridiculous if you look at Titus's skill set, where it is like 60 to 70% his crit rate already. Then you add that, and hello, here's an extra 25% hit point, which, like, come on. This card is a must-have for any water team that you're putting together at all. Even if you're not putting together a water team and you just have 1 or 2 water units, this is still a solid card to throw into that team, even if it doesn't help out the rest of your team. It still gives one guy all of these things, which is a major buff. This one is a nice card for ice units, and it'll be coming out not too far in the future, I believe. It's only a mythic rare too, so it's not that hard to get. Ice attack up by 15, and then another, 20, so 35%. And the increased ice resistance is not that big of a deal, but you could throw that on a non-ice unit. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter because that's the party buff, so if you have non-ice units and you have like a fire unit or something in the group, you can still kind of protect him a little bit. It's more just for this extra 35% ice attack, which is pretty good. It's not as amazing as some of the other cards that you will see in here. Now, let's go not over to this one, but over to the agility one. So, there are some mythic rare cards, and I haven't looked at all of them quite yet, that have some really good abilities for the fact that they're just mythic rare. Like this one here gives 30% more to dark attacks. It also increases pierce resist by 15, which is pretty good against Kane's, because Kane, as everybody knows, is a little bit broken at the moment. He does a lot of damage no matter how much defense you have. And don't expect to see that to change with any of the new units, because almost all of the new units I have seen all have piercing, increased piercing, increased slash, increased every kind of penetration you can imagine. And it's just kind of making all your tank characters, well, basically you might as well just stop using a lot of them because they just aren't going to be that useful. You basically need to get revive or re-raise, something that just stops your character from dying. Courage, something like that, because you're gonna get one hit by a lot of these people who have 80 or 90 armor pen, and then like some of those cards that give like 60 extra attack and they just rush in and hit you once and it's like 5,000 damage, goodbye. Even with like 30 like defense and spirit, you're still getting one shot by these people. And that's a little bit, disheartening, because you put a lot of effort and time into building those tanks up to be able to handle that kind of attack, and then they just kind of fold. But this is one of the smaller agility increases you'll get. It's just 5%. That's not that much. This card overall, it's an okay card. The extra 30% dark attack is nice if you don't have other cards like that. Now, this is a super rare card, and this is about what the normal is, 12% agility. That's about the highest you can get. It does decrease your defense a bit, and it increases your critical rate a little bit. Now, this card doesn't actually have a unique ability added onto it, and I don't know if they're going to add one onto it. It is just a super rare card, right? So they might not add anything to any of the super rare cards. It might only be for mythic rare and ultra rare. Now, this card is one I used for a long time because it does increase 10% agility on a single unit. You lose 5 spirit, but most of the time it doesn't really matter. If you're getting hit by magic, you're dying with one of these characters. And if you're getting hit with a holy or something else, it's guaranteed you're going to die anyways, even with or without that. And it adds 20 slash. Now this extra critical damage, it's not so great on any of the current characters we have, but going forward, depending on what characters are released, that could be pretty big. I haven't listed all the other cards that have had increases to critical damage, but this one was a pretty good amount added onto it, and it's a nice card to begin with. Plus it has the agility, which is what all these cards here do have. Now this is another one, you've probably seen this quite a bit. This is the one that you can get currently, and it's the easiest one to get, and it increases your agility by 10% for your party. Increases charm resistance by 30% for wind units once you get the upgrade for it, and defense 10 per 10. That's not too bad. Also a note, whenever it says increased defense, this is actually just a flat rate. Most of these other abilities are all percentages, but this is just your character will get 10 defense added on to their defense or spirit. Now this is a card that's coming out, and I have to say I do really like the ability on it because it gives 15% agility. The only other card that gives that much agility is this card here, and it's a limited time only card that I am very sad to say I never did get. And it increases again 15%. Now if you do have this card, it's going to add an extra 35 slash attack to your slashers, and it already gives 10 to a unit, so that's an extra 45% slash damage. That's pretty hefty on this card that already was a top tier card, just because of the fact that it gave a huge boost to your agility comparatively to all the other cards. It was the best of the best until this card came out. Now this card is more for magic units because, well, you can see it doesn't really give any attack, it gives a bunch of magic, and it adds a new ability to it, which is kind of a neat one, and will definitely probably upset a lot of people who hate getting hit by, Medea's ultimate or any other area of effect abilities, because it does 100% knocks everybody back once they're hit from it and decreases area resistance by 20. Now we see a lot of these kind of things that are decrease in resistances or penetrating resistances, and going forward we don't really see any major increases to resistances to kind of counter this. So unfortunately I see this kind of going one ways, where basically everybody's just going to have glass cannons that run out there and try to kill the other person first, and you just either re-raise yourself or, courage yourself so that you don't die once you go out there and basically throw your nuke on somebody. Which I'm not a huge fan of that. I like having multiple, viable strategies, so it's fun and interesting. I don't like the fact that we're kind of getting pushed into just stronger and stronger units, and the power creep seems to be kind of a real thing that is slowly happening here. But this card itself, it'll add an extra 25% accuracy to all dark units. The 15 agility is the big thing there, and the unit buff is just 9% accuracy. That's pretty small, not very important. This is the big important one, and then this is just icing on the cake if you're a dark unit at all. And this ability only works for those classes listed above. It's still a really large area, does a half decent amount, and you can cast it more than once. So if this ability does stack on it, which I don't think it would, but if it did, that would be pretty ridiculous. So in the upcoming Shadows event here, where they reintroduce, I believe it's Thancred and Yshult, they're going to be introducing this card, which it has a party buff that is just as strong as Ifrit, who is the strongest party buffer in the game currently at 50% attack. He used to be top of the tier, but now he shares that spot with this card. which I believe will be a limited time card. So if you don't have Ifrit and you want a magic and fire oriented card, I mean Ifrit's also fire, but he does not have specifically only fire units get that. I mean, it'd be kind of weird for a water or ice unit to need fire attack up 10, but who knows with future units, right? This one will be increasing ice resistance by 20%. So that's not too bad of a little buff to Ifrit. But this other card here will be increasing pierce resistance by 20%, which is much nicer. And the 30% magic is very good if you have a combination team. So if you did have your Schult, having this card on her would be a very good idea. And then you could have an tank and an attacker on that same team, also fire units, just to give them all the pierce resistance and all the attack up 50%. It's a very good idea to use this card. This one is another, oh, this should have been in the water all card, but I guess I had it down here. I might have a couple more cards that are specifically for certain units. The increased magic resistance penetration is very nice because there's a lot of magic penetration going around. 18% isn't that big when most of the newer units are going to have 80 or so penetration, because they'll have abilities that give them like 40, and then they'll have, you know, skills that give them some extra, and then they'll probably have a card or so that gives them penetration. And so this will only mitigate it a small amount, but it might be enough to help you out. It's only for water units though. But this is the bigger part here. 50% magic. That's pretty huge right there. And the area resistance is also a really nice party buff to a water team. Increased dex by 35%. That's good on a lot of different units. Most of them use dex in their attack or dodging or accuracy, so it's just good to have a higher amount of dex. Now the ability that comes with it increases modifiers by 60% if the target height, so this is definitely Illyridia's card here. Now, Immobilize is pretty good. It has a lot of different effects on it here, depending on if they have different heights or if they're different multiples. It does a bunch of different things. The decreased attack, that's a huge amount of decreased attack. Decreased to magic, same. And a 25, so 1 out of 4 chance to stop him from moving anywhere. And increases it by 60% if the target's height is a multiple of 2. And the same thing for these other ones. Like, this is a huge ability right here and makes the card, you know, worth it just on its own, but then it also adds all these other stupid abilities. So this is a card that you have to have if you have this character. It is a must-have card. So try to get it. I think it was limited time. I don't know if it's already gone. It is a stupid card. I missed most of the Christmas stuff, and all of the Kane and Rosa events I was not here for, and that is very unfortunate because I would have just pretty much got a bunch of Viz and saved up even more for the current changes that will be happening in a few months. Envious Magician, it's a pretty standard card. It's what a lot of people use because it's a, you know, discount Ramo, but it's also getting this increased human killer 15%, which anything that increases damage against humans is great for PvP. As you well know, all the characters you fight against are in fact humans. Except for, I believe, with the exception of the near characters that are coming up, they are automata, so they are classified as machines. And I believe they are actually dealt more damage with Machine Killer. So there is one exception to this currently, but you know, most of the people will be humans that you will be fighting and killing in the PvP. So this guy, he's, you know, mostly wind, but he does offer some other abilities. Increase the magic attack 25, accuracy 15, wind resistance 20%. See, I don't really like that when you are a wind unit and it gives you more wind resistance. It's not super great. And then increased magic 30% is pretty good, and then 10% luck, which means more hit, more dodge. That's what that affects. So this is an okay card. I wouldn't put it at the top tier list of the newer cards coming out. And this one, it's just a good old magic attack up 35, which not very many other have the magic attack. The newer cards though, as you saw, there are lots of them that have more magic attack than this, but this is for every color no matter what it is, and for any light units it decreases activation time by 100 now, which will be nice. That's a nice little addition to a good card. So here's another card that I honestly never really cared too much for it, because it didn't really offer my team quite what I needed. But the change, the increased 25% health to light units, considering with the Shadows Thancred is an ultra rare unit, he's going to be coming out, and I believe you'll be able to get him for free from just the store with medals. So I will be leveling him up, so I might use this card because of the increased hit point 25% to light units, and the increased slash resistance, which any card that gives you defense currently with all the penetration that's going on is almost a must-have, because there's just not enough of this to counter it often. And these are just some other changes to the classic cards that I've seen. An increased 25 accuracy to earth units is pretty good to this card. I wasn't really a huge fan of it because I found some of the other cards were just slightly better, in my opinion, for my party. But if you want extra hit chance on an earth unit, here you go, there's this one. Most likely you won't need the extra hit because you'll just have units that have sure hit abilities. Fenrir is actually getting a big buff, and it made me decide to start leveling him up during this Christmas event, where I could grab some of those medals and convert them into his shards, because he is adding 50% attack to ice units. And I have, 3 ultra rare ice units currently, and one of them doesn't use, ice attack, but going forward, Orin will be an ice unit, so I believe I will add him into my ice party. But currently my ice party consists of Medea, Victoria, and Agrius. So this extra 50% attack is huge for all your ice units, and the magic resistance 20% was good on its own. But now they've added this, and I can see why they've added this kind of stuff to a lot of the other ultra rare cards, is because you saw some of those cards that have 4 or 5 abilities, all of which are, pretty stupid when you put them all together. They're really strong. So they're buffing some of the older cards, I believe, to kind of make up for that. But not all the older cards are getting good abilities like this. Some of them are getting pretty stupid abilities. Like, water units get 20% water resistant. And it's like, well, that's not really quite as good. Odin, who is a card I do use regularly, is also going to be an increased accuracy by 25%. I kind of wish they would have kept it the same with him because he's non-elemental. I wish they would have just added this on as like every unit gets increased accuracy 25%, but it's only ice units. So keep that in mind if you use Odin and you do have ice units. He will be getting an ice unit buff at some point in the future. And I mean, this human killer is great on him, and the attack resistance means any unit that gets hit with a single target spell or ability takes 20% less damage from that one. Now, the sad part is I run characters with like this and a couple other defensive abilities, and I still get one-shotted, which just goes to show how strong the, armor penetration is becoming. Now this guy has a nice little increase to attack 10%, not that much for only specific units. And this ability here is kind of neat because it increases damage as hit point it decreases, but it doesn't tell me how much it increases. It just says it does 195%. So this could be potentially very, very deadly if you, for instance, had a character that had courage or something, and then he got hit with this card on him, and then he had 1 health and he got an action. How much damage could he potentially do with this effect? I don't know. Could be a lot, could be huge. This is the main reason I like this card, is because it has that increased pierce resistance 20%. Frankly, with how much, you know, they are adding the armor penetration in this game, I would like to actually see that up to like 40 or 50%, but they do have abilities in the game that increase your defenses a bit too. You just kind of have to get the right unit with the right kit to kind of try to handle the damage that's thrown at them. And it also adds area resistance, so pierce resistance and area resistance are both really nice, especially if you're fighting a Lancer like Kane who uses a lot of wide area pierce and area attacks that should add together and give you even more defense against him. So this card, pretty good. Now Titan, he's pretty ridiculous with his human killer of 25% on physical attacks. He's definitely a really good card for a character like Katone because he increases evasion rate by 20. But again, I have said this, and I do believe evasion is slowly going to get phased out, along with most of the tank type characters. They're just going to slowly get out damaged, and they won't be able to really keep up and dodge when you have a team full of 3 people who can all, you know, sure hit somebody. You can't really run up and kill one of them and then not die immediately after from, you know, sharpshoot or holy or Yuna's ultimate or some other ability. So I don't believe this will be as strong as it could be if they had had less, you know, sure hits going on. Aegeon is a strong card on his own. He increases slash attack by 25, increases accuracy, and he increases slash resistance penetration by 20. So that's, you know, very strong on any slashing units. And then it adds the extra damage on top of that. And then soon enough for any lightning units, which I have, again, only Salier, so I won't be investing anything into this guy. He increases hit point by 25%, which is a pretty big increase. Like, the next closest to that would be, well, actually the only one that ties with that is Titan, I believe. Oh no, Golem. Golem is the one who ties with that. So this is a mythic rare card, and this is for all of you guys who use, you know, I believe his name is O, and I can't remember the other guy's name. But these 2 guys are mythic rare characters, and they get pretty big buffs from this one mythic rare card. It's actually honestly pretty crazy. 50% attack increase, 20 like defense penetration, and then they increase magic resistance, increase slashing, increase critical damage too. Like, this card has what an ultra rare card would have for, you know, all fire people or all ice people, but this is just for these 2 characters. I don't use either of them, unfortunately. This card makes them very, very strong though, so keep your eyes peeled for this card. And when it comes out, if you do use either of these 2 characters, make sure you grab this card up and immediately put it into your group, because it is a mythic rare card that gives all of this. So that is crazy. And this is another mythic rare card that surprised me when I saw it, because the slash resistance is pretty good, and it does increase slash attack by 20. That's, you know, not bad. The buff it's getting though, if you do use a light unit, it's an extra 20 slash attack. So if you don't have an ultra rare card and you have a light unit who does slashing, well, you can add this card into that group and it will do a decent extra amount of damage. And that is all the newer vision cards that are coming out in the near future. So let's talk about, I believe they have this Shadowbringers event coming up right away here. So not far away at all, because it's the 4th right now. It's coming out on the 6th. And Yshult will be given away to us for free, and she will even I believe, have all of her shards. So on one of these limited time challenge missions you'll be able to do during this collaboration, you can get up to 400 Yasholta shards, 1,400 Viz, and 30 Final Fantasy reissue summon tickets, which you can use those summon tickets to summon from this banner. And 400 shards, that's a good chunk right there. That's pretty much everything you need to get her up there, besides like job materials, which will be available in missions. It'll be very easy to get her, and she is a fire unit, so I am very happy about it because I do not have any good fire units currently, and it'll be nice to have, you know, something that I don't have to pay for to get. Like, I don't want to spend any Viz in the next 2 months, so having this event come up next is actually a really good blessing for once. I am very happy about this. And this EX quest, I am not happy about the EX system they'll be inviting into the game in a couple months' time at all, though. I believe they kind of did it wrong. They shouldn't have made it so you need 400 unit shards for one. That just makes it seem like a lot more work. It kind of seems more like a cash grab than not. But even without the cash grab involved, because they are giving away a lot more free shit now, if they make it so you have to do like 3 times the work to get up there and you still have to spend like even more, it's not really free. It's, you know, free with some conditions. It's free as long as you make installments. It's not exactly what you want to see, but this next event here will have free characters, and you can get them maxed out. And, you know, Thancred is a light unit, so that's also really fucking good, because I'll show you my light units, and you'll see why I'm happy to actually have a ultra rare light unit, because I don't have any other units that are really leveled up. I have Masher Horm, Rob Horm, and then this guy, what's his name again? Engelbert. I keep forgetting his name because I don't see him very often, and I just don't have him leveled up at all. I don't think he'll be making too much of a comeback with a lot of the newer changes. I think tanks like him, Agrius, and, you know, Warrior of Light even will slowly be pushed out. I don't think it'll happen right away. They're still very viable for now, but unless there are some buffs to them or some changes and some ways to kind of counter all the armor penetration, defense penetration, people are going to value the damaging units over the defensive units or the dodging units, like most of my units are. And as for fire units, I also don't really have any good fire units. I mean, I have a super rare that I could get to level 99, but, you know, nobody uses super rares, even though I do like a lot of the super rare characters. Even though a lot of the mythic rare characters, I enjoy their design and them, they just aren't nearly as viable. Okay, there's this guy who's getting that one card, Seymour, and he's a samurai, Viking, and thief, and like those are all good combinations. He probably has an okay character kit, but in the end his stats just won't stack up to an ultra rare character that has a couple good ultra rare cards. But he may become more viable because of that simple one card that helps buff him up a huge amount. Rain will be the next ultra rare I do get up there. Eventually, I'm building him just with the shards I get, and it's been taking months because I'm not spending anything in the shop right now. And I recommend to everyone else, just try to avoid spending any Viz, because in the upcoming events, you're going to want to be able to, you know, afford to get your characters that you really like up to that higher level that will cost a huge amount.